Kia ora, Sandy here. What you see in the background here is Wellington East Girls College. It's a building that is absolutely beautiful. It was built in 1925 and it has educated people there. And in the 80s, when the 80s hit, they decided they wanted to get rid of it. In 1981, they did a campaign to save this building, and it's the reason why it's looking gorgeous and still with us here today. And that's what we're here to do as well, as we're here to help with a bit of education to find out what's hot in the tech world. And with me, I've got Lloyd Vickery from BEarena, who is the country manager for BEarena. How are you going?
Oh, I'm fantastic. And yourself, Sandy?
Good. Now, it's an education session that we've got. We're looking at what are the hot things now for tech. Years ago, we were talking about the cloud, blockchain. What's one of the big things that you've been dealing with?
Probably the biggest thing, especially in the COVID world, is much higher uptake of software as a service, SaaS offerings, where we've typically seen something that's delivered on-premise or perhaps in an application you deploy yourself and manage this yourself, either in the cloud or on-premise. We're seeing that be wrapped up into a software as a service, so you don't have to manage it. It's automatically operated for you. And probably in the last 12 months, we've started to see some really interesting use cases that haven't been cost effective or useful before, where you typically do it on premise to save money, but now you can do it in the cloud at a cheaper or similar price point.
There was a stage where people were going to cloud and it cost a bundle, a lot more than what they expected. Has it changed now?
Yes and no, right? So it's very use case specific, and what we've seen is in particular backup and disaster recovery is now becoming more and more cost effective in the cloud when compared to on-premise. And also there's a few new security offerings which become a lot more important when you've got everyone working from home and they're not necessarily connecting back into the office or sitting in the office and going through the office file and having all the security that you normally get at the office. You need to have, security that works anywhere for anybody, no matter where they are in the world. And that's really where these new SaaS-based security companies are coming into play.
So what have you seen? What have you been hands-on with, and who have you helped so far?
Sure. So there's a couple of things. If we look at the security space, there's two key companies that we've been following quite closely. One of those is Darktrace, and that's a really interesting company. It was founded maybe 4 or 5 years ago from, believe it or not, Cambridge mathematicians who were working on algorithms to give AI self-awareness, artificial intelligence self-awareness. And they partnered up with a team of people that were effectively ex-spies, but they were like cyber intelligence spies from the GCSB in the UK. And so they realized that we needed a new way of countering cyber criminals and cyber attacks. And so they've built arguably the most advanced machine learning, cognitive-driven security analytics that we see today. And then they've made that easy to consume by packaging it up into a cloud software as a service offering that you can just connect in with your Office 365 emails. And rather than looking for a template, right, which looks like spam because you've seen a whole bunch of emails and say, look, this looks similar to that spam email. They take a ground up approach where they learn about human behavior. So they learn the way that I would do emailing. They learn the way that you would do emailing.
Yeah.
And through this modeling, they can then pick up when someone hacks your email account, right? And then sends an email as you, but if you're writing the email or it's written in a different way than what you would normally type it, they can pick that up, where traditional spam filtering really doesn't capture that.
Right.
So very, very powerful.
One question that comes to mind when we talk about these things which sound fantastic, does it come with one of those large price tags?
Not at all. Well, I guess it depends on the vendor at the end of the day, right? Typically with SaaS solutions, you see a price per user and a pretty reasonable price per user. And that's what we've seen with Darktrace, in that it's very competitively priced in the market. So much so that it's comparative to some of the more traditional solutions you might put in. We've so far seen that to be excellent value for money.
Something that we need to be talking about with a lot more people?
Oh, exactly right. And that's what we do here at BEarena, is we're always on the lookout for what's new, what's up and coming. And often we see these companies like Darktrace and Datrium and Druva, and they've been working for several years in the US, and they've focused their efforts while they're in startup mode and stealth mode and in the US and sometimes the European markets. And poor little New Zealand gets overlooked. Yeah. So we're looking for companies that have proven themselves overseas, but maybe not so well known here in New Zealand. And then we bring them into the New Zealand market to help get the best of what's available.
It often happens, everyone's keeping their eye on the big teams when the innovation's being done in the smaller teams. And if you're busy looking at the big ships, you've missed that innovation innovation that's going on.
That's right. And look, I'm a big believer in the little guy, or the up and comers, as it were, simply because in an established market, if you're going to grow as a company, you have to be doing better than all of your competition that have been around for 5 or 10 years or 20 or sometimes 100 years, right? So, when you see a company that's growing rapidly in a crowded market, then it's a good idea to keep your eye on it. A great example of that is Pure Storage. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, no one had heard of them. The storage market was static or shrinking as a whole, so it was really difficult for even the incumbents to grow. And they came in with a fantastic product, a different business model, a really transparent, easy to use pricing, totally changed the way that we think about storage. And so we're kind of always looking for the next Pure Storage or the next Nutanix, and so we can take to you guys.
Brilliant. Lloyd Vickery, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care.